Okay, good morning everybody. It's Tuesday, 1/5/2021. Yay for 21. Anyway, sorry you guys. I'm just glad 2020 is over. Okay, so yesterday in Zoom we talked about sine, cosine, and tangent, right? And we learned that tangent of some angle is equal to the opposite side over the adjacent side. So today, and we talked about it briefly, we want to talk about the sine ratio. So the sine ratio, sine of theta, is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Okay, that's what we talked about yesterday. So let's take a look at this example. So if we want to find AC, right, and instead of calling it AC, let's just call it side B because it's opposite of B, okay? So if I want to find AC, again, let's go to my angle. So if I'm standing here at my angle, let's call that theta. So in this case, theta is equal to 34 degrees. Then I want to name these sides. So from this angle, the 6 is directly to the opposite, okay, the opposite side. And the B, or what we want to find AC, is the hypotenuse, okay? So opposite side is the 6, and the hypotenuse is B. So those are the two sides that we want to work with, okay? So opposite hypotenuse we learned was sine. We did that yesterday. So the sine ratio, in this case, would set up as sine of theta being equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, right? Here's my angle, that's theta, so that's 34. My opposite we have a 6, I'll use the 6, and my hypotenuse, I don't know, we'll call B. So a sine of 34 degrees, because that's theta, theta is 34, is equal to the opposite side, which we'll use as 6, over the hypotenuse, which we don't know, AC, or let's just call it B, okay? Now, if the variable is on the bottom, we're still going to multiply it up, okay? So we're going to multiply both sides by B. So if I multiply up the B, times by B, times by B, right? Then we're going to get this. We're going to get B, because B comes up, we multiply by B. B times the sine of 34 is equal to 6, okay? Just like we did yesterday. We multiply, okay? But this time, we haven't solved for B yet, but this is B times the sine of 34. So to solve for B, we undo it. We always do the opposite. So instead of B times sine of 34, we're going to divide by sine of 34, which is just a number in our calculator, okay? So we divide by sine of 34, divide by sine of 34, boom, boom. And then we get B is equal to, well, we're going to put this in our calculator exactly like this. Make sure you're in degree mode. But I'll put my calculator just like this. I'm just going to go 6 divided by sine of 34, and I get an answer of about 10.73. So here's the deal. Okay, let's see if you remember this. If the variable, the unknown, is on the bottom part of the fraction, what you eventually do is you divide by that trig function. So if the variable, the unknown, is on the bottom of the fraction, you'll end up dividing, okay? Now let's take a look at this triangle, okay? Let's find IG. So IG is this side. We could also call it little p because there's angle P. We could also call it little p, okay? So if we take a look at our angle, that's my theta, right? The 12 is definitely my hypotenuse, right? But the P, or IG, is the adjacent side. Yesterday, we talked about cosine. So the cosine ratio, we talked about cosine of theta as being the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, okay? So in this case, let's take a look and set it up. So we have our angle, theta is our angle, 40, and our hypotenuse is 12. We'll put the 12 there, and our adjacent, which is P, we don't know, we'll put there. So let's rewrite this. So to solve this, we'll rewrite this as cosine of theta, but theta is my angle, so I'll go 40 degrees, equals my adjacent side, which is P, which is what I want to know, over my hypotenuse, which is 12, okay? Cosine, because adjacent over hypotenuse, okay? I'm going to multiply by 12. Cancels, multiply by 12. And I would have P is equal to 12 times the cosine of 40 degrees. I'm just going to use my calculator, and I'm just going to simply go 12 times the cosine of 40 degrees, and I get an answer about 9.19. Okay, so let's go ahead and review what we have. We know in a triangle that our tangent is our opposite over adjacent. I hope that's written down in your journal somewhere. We know that sine is equal to our opposite over hypotenuse, and finally our third trig ratio is cosine, which is equal to our adjacent over hypotenuse. Hopefully all three of these ratios are somewhere in your journal. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's take a look. Okay, example 1. Okay, solve triangle ABC and find the missing side. So here's how it works. Okay, go to the angle first. 1 theta. Okay, first thing, go to theta. Steps. 1, go to theta first. Okay, so theta is the angle. It's here. I'm going to circle it. Okay. Step 2, go to the known side. So go to our known side. So our known side is the 15. Okay. 3, let's pick a side to solve. Alright, so I'm either going to solve, so go to the angle, okay, start here, this is where you start, set your angle. Go to the known side, that's my 15, I know that, and pick a side to solve for. So, I don't know, how about we solve for, I don't know, how about right here, this side right here, let's call this little a. We could either find side A or we could side B, it does not matter. Okay, I can pick either one. Okay, I'm going to pick side A, little a. Okay, now let's give names to our sides. So let's name our sides. Let's name the sides. Okay, so if I name the sides, I know that 15 is my hypotenuse. I know that because it's opposite the 90. Side A is directly opposite. Throw a stone or a ball or a rock or whatever the opposite side is. That's my opposite. And I know that little b, which is next to the angle, that's where I'm standing, is the angle. That's going to be my adjacent. Okay, now these are the two sides I want to work with. I want to work with the hypotenuse and I want to find the opposite. So I look at my ratios. Okay, opposite hypotenuse, opposite hypotenuse, opposite hypotenuse has got to be sine. So I must use sine. I'm not going to do anything with the adjacent yet. Not yet. So opposite, adjacent, opposite hypotenuse, let's use sine. So I'm going to set up sine of 38 degrees equals my opposite, which is little a, over my hypotenuse, which is 15. Okay, again, here it is. So I'm setting up sine of theta. Theta is the angle, 38. Equals my opposite, which is my little a, which is what I want to find. My hypotenuse, which is 15. Okay, now, to solve, we're just going to multiply up by 15, times by 15, times by 15. And then we're going to have our side A equals 15 times the sine of 38 degrees. Okay, so then, all right, 15 sine 38, enter, and I get about a 9.23. So little a, or side A, which is also BC, is about a 9.23. Or call it BC, doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to call it. Okay? Now, if I know that, then the next thing I can find is angle B. Angle B is pretty easy, because angle B and angle A together make 90, okay? So the fourth thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to, and then this should say just solve, right? Cross, multiply, solve. Then 5 I'm going to find the other angle. So I'm going to go 90 minus theta. Okay, that's all I'm going to do is 90 minus theta. In this case, I'm just going to go 90 minus 38. So to find angle B, so the measure of angle B is going to be, 90 minus 38 degrees. And so I'm just going to go 90 minus 38, and I get an answer about 52 degrees. Put that in my triangle so I have it. Now last but not least, I can now use Pythagoras Theorem. I can. So step 6, to find third side, we'll use Pythagoras Theorem. And I like to say leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. And the only reason I do that is because a squared plus b squared. C squared doesn't always work. So in my example then, I'm going to go, because I know that this side is a 9.23, I'm going to go, okay, 9.23 squared plus b squared equals 15 squared. I could have also used cosine. I actually like cosine better. B squared is equal to 15 squared minus 9.23 squared, right? Subtract. I'm going to use my calculator to do most of the work. 15 squared minus 9.23 squared. I get b squared is equal to 139.8. So then I'm a square root, right? And I'll get the value b, and b is going to equal, let's see, square root of that answer. Give me a second. I got about 11.82. We'll practice this more. We will. Okay, finally, example 2. Okay, find the area of this isosceles triangle. So here's what I know. Area of a triangle, okay? It's always going to be 1/2 its base times its height, right? Well, I don't know the base, and I don't know the height. But here's what I can do. I can make this into a right triangle. Since it's isosceles, it cuts it right down the middle, doesn't it? So now this angle's 22 degrees. Let's find the height of the triangle. All right, well, the height of the triangle, if I do my angle, the 18, side 18 has a name. It's the hypotenuse. And the side I want to find, the height of the triangle, is got to be the adjacent. And this would be the opposite from the angle I want. Opposite. Throw the rock across. Hypotenuse, opposite the 90, and adjacent because it's next. Okay, so if what I'm doing in this example is using the 18 and I want to find the height, I want the hypotenuse and the adjacent. Okay, so let me look at hypotenuse, adjacent. Hypotenuse, adjacent, hypotenuse is cosine. Okay, let's see if I can set this up. All right, let's see if I can set this up. All right, like that. All right, can you see it? Yeah, you can. Okay, so let's set this up. So I'm going to set up cosine of theta. Cosine of theta. But theta is the 22 degrees, right? So I'm going to go cosine of 22 is equal to the adjacent. Now the adjacent is my unknown. It's the side I don't know. So I'll say h over the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is 18. Okay. I will solve this by multiplying. So times it by 18, times by 18. I'll use my calculator. What is 18 times the cosine of 22, and I get an answer of about 16.7. Okay, so the height is 16.7. Now let's figure out what the base is. So what I'll do is I'll find this side and I'll double it, okay? I'll find this side, let's call it x. And when I find the value of this side, I'll double it, okay? So I'm going to go opposite and hypotenuse. Opposite hypotenuse is the sine. So I'm going to set up the sine of theta, and theta is 22 degrees, is equal to the opposite side, which is my unknown x, over my hypotenuse, which is my 18. Okay, so I'll multiply by 18. I'll use my calculator. And I'll go 18 times the sine of 22. I can answer 6.74, okay? Okay, so this is 6.74. So is this, right? So the entire base of this, 6.74 plus 6.74, so the entire base is 13.48, okay? So let's figure this out. So the area of this triangle, area is equal to 1/2, because that's a triangle formula. Base, now my base turned out to be base is 13.48 times my height, and my height turns out to be 16.7. Let me go ahead and put those numbers in my calculator and see what we get. Alright, clear that. Let's go 0.5, because that's 1/2, right? Times 13.48 times 16.7, and the answer, or the area of this triangle, the area of this triangle is 112 point, we'll round it to 6, okay? 112.6, we'll say centimeters squared or units squared. Okay, that's what I have, so you should do the homework. If you don't do the homework, then I'm going to be bummed at you. We're almost done, so just finish strong.